not where, like I said before, this is not where I was originally going with this. This is where the Lord turned me and hooked me up with Nehemiah because of the wall in Nehemiah. And as I began to look at it, I began to see that there are a lot of correlations with what was happening with Nehemiah and Ezra and what's happening now. I mean, you can't begin to ignore it. If you've never read Ezra and Nehemiah much before, which truthfully I have never really dug into it, and there's so very much that there's no way we can even begin to touch it with, an hour and a half. But Ezra and Nehemiah were actually, it was just one book in Ezra, and they divided it. It was like Ezra 1 and Ezra 2, and it is the English version of the Bible that divided it into Ezra and Nehemiah. The time frame is the same. When you look at it, the time frame is the same. They worked together to build the wall and to restore the temple. This is going to be the second temple and the second wall. And we know that there's a third temple. Remember, there's a prophecy, which is number 1, manifestations number 2, and the third is the return. It's the same thing with the temple. Long story short, in the very end of this, when they get done, because they had gone so far in sin, when they come back and they build the temple, and it's taken them so long to build the temple, they build the wall first. But when they build the temple, they said that the people that were left there, the remnant that were there that built it, actually wept and cried because it had none of the splendor that it had before. They realized that they had fallen so far back in sin, or fallen so far into sin, that their family just did not have the luster and the splendid and the magnificent, being as magnified as Solomon's temple did. But before that, there was a wall that needed to be built, because no wall, no city, no temple. No wall, no city, no temple, no return. So it really, really applies to us now. It applies to us now. It applies to women because we're the ones that actually build the wall. In Ephesians 6:10, it says, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." That word stand is going to be mentioned, that you're going to withstand, you're going to stand, you're going to stand. It's mentioned 3 times. And it says against the wiles of the devil. And the wiles of the devil there is really only mentioned in one other spot. And it talks about, it's in Ephesians, and it's Ephesians 4:14. It talks about craftiness, wickedness, cunning arts. All of it is deceit, anything that Satan could use to use against you. And those are the things that you're standing against. The part that I found really interesting was, as I was looking at the wiles, there's no Hebrew word that matches that. There's no Hebrew word that says that that's equivalent. And I found that really, really interesting. So what it makes me, in my little head, this is my opinion, is that after Jesus has been resurrected from dead, the real war begins. The real war begins. Now he pulls out all stops. Now he pulls out wiles, because he's been defeated and now he really knows it. He pulls out the wiles, the deceit, the craftiness, the cunningness, because now he knows. He knows that he's been defeated, and he knows that his time is short. On the timeline of eternity, his time is short. So it says to stand, and that word stand there is histemi. And histemi means to be stand, to be firm, to be immovable, but it also means to stand like you're going, like the foundation of a building. It means to be immovable, to stand steadfast, to be in a secure spot, to be safe, to be intact, to be untouchable. It means that when you do that. Oh, did y'all hear that? Oh, good. That was pretty darn loud. It means to stand. The equivalent word for histemi, the equivalent word for Greek, one of the equivalent words is taka. And taka means to blow a trumpet. When you look up that word taka in the Hebrew, it means to blow a trumpet, but it means to sound an alarm of war and victory. Not just war. Sound an alarm for battle and for war, but for victory too. So that trumpet that's being blown is saying, hey, there's a battle, there's a war coming on, we won. All in one major blast. All in one major blast. Here's where the picture of where the women come in on this, is that same word means to take a tent pole and drive it into the ground. So when you take a stand and you stand on the wall of grace and you take that tent pole and drive it into the ground, you don't even know it, but you're blowing a trumpet. And you're saying, this is war. And I have won. This is war, and I have won. This word for trumpet is the same word that's used in Ezekiel. In Ezekiel, it says that the Lord says, I blew the trumpet, and no one came. In Ezekiel, I think it's 33:6, and no one came. No one answered the call for battle. You go down further in Ezekiel 33, and it says, if you know to blow the trumpet, and you don't blow it, and the people aren't warned, that blood is on your hands. If you blow the trumpet, and you warn the people, and they choose not to answer, it's on them. You now know that if you petition and you request and you're pitching a tent and you're driving the sword in the ground, you're blowing the trumpet. You better petition and request, and we need to pray. Because we are the ones that blow the trumpet. And if we don't blow the trumpet, we don't tell people, we don't get bolder about it, we don't enlarge our tents so that the kingdom of God grows, it's on our hands. I don't want it on my hands. Nothing will make you bolder than if you get that thought in your head and you're out in Walmart or wherever you want to go and you have an opportunity to say to somebody, may I pray for you, or can I do this? You better step up to the plate and do it. You cannot, in all honesty, you cannot worry that if you're from Fruitcakeville. You cannot. I can be the first one to tell you, I've walked, we went for a walk, and I'll share this with you. We went for a walk one time, and we walk on Saturday mornings. We have a prayer walk.